Imagine a continent, not a forgotten corner of history, not a wild or primitive land, but one of the true cradles of civilization. A place where great kingdoms rose, where ideas flowed freely, where cities of thousands thrived, where science, art, and trade flourished. And yet, most people have heard almost nothing about it. Today, we're diving into one of the most overlooked chapters of world history, ancient Africa. Why do we learn so much about Rome, Greece, and China, but almost nothing about Africa's empires? What powerful civilizations once ruled here? What did they achieve, and what happened to them? This is the story that no one ever fully told you. Before we begin exploring, we need to understand why ancient Africa has so often been left out of history. There are a few reasons. First, a Eurocentric bias in historical writing. Most history textbooks were written from a European perspective, focusing on Eurasia, while Africa was often depicted only as a background or a source of slaves and gold. Second, the preservation problem. While Africa has an incredibly rich archaeological and written record, much of it remains under-researched or was destroyed, unlike the well-documented histories of Egypt or Mesopotamia. Third, modern geopolitics and colonial legacies. The loss of artifacts, shifting borders, and centuries of European colonization have all complicated the full story of ancient Africa. But as we'll see, this does not mean there was nothing there. In fact, Africa was home to powerful, organized, and innovative civilizations, often equal to, and sometimes surpassing, those of Europe and Asia. Let's start in the Northeast, a region most people have heard of, but only partially understand. Nubia, modern Sudan and southern Egypt, and the Kingdom of Kush deserve special attention. Nubia was one of the oldest centers of civilization. Archaeological finds show settlements dating back as far as 5000 BC. The Kingdom of Kush, once an independent state, became so powerful it eventually conquered Egypt itself, forming the 25th dynasty, the Black Pharaohs. The Kushites developed their own culture, their own script, Meroitic, their own pyramids, their own industries. Their capital, Meroe, was a thriving industrial city, full of iron workshops, trade, and architecture unlike anything else on the continent. This was no shadow of Egypt, it was a civilization in its own right. Next, we move east, to the highlands of modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, the Kingdom of Aksum. According to ancient sources, Aksum was one of the four great powers of the ancient world, alongside Rome, Persia, and China. Here's what made Aksum extraordinary. They minted their own gold, silver, and bronze coins, something very rare in ancient Africa. They controlled the port of Adulis, which connected Africa to India, Arabia, and the Mediterranean, making Aksum a major trading hub. Their architecture was monumental, towering obelisks, stone tombs, and temples that still stand today. And yet, when we talk about the ancient world, Aksum is rarely mentioned, though it absolutely deserves to be. Now we travel west, to the heart of Africa, often portrayed only through the lens of colonization. But this was once the land of some of the richest empires in world history. The Empire of Ghana, around 300 CE, 13th century, controlled the trans-Saharan gold and salt routes. The Mali Empire, 13th to 16th centuries, became famous for the city of Timbuktu, a major center of Islamic learning and trade. The Songhai Empire, 15th to 16th centuries, was one of Africa's largest and most advanced states, with cities, universities, and a professional army. Imagine cities full of scholars, libraries with thousands of manuscripts, and trade networks stretching across deserts and oceans. Yet in most school books, Africa is reduced to an exotic backdrop. In truth, it was a major engine of global commerce and culture. Even in the far south, complex societies flourished. The Kingdom of Great Zimbabwe was a massive stone city-state, built entirely without mortar, home to an estimated 18,000 people. It was a powerful trading hub dealing in gold, copper, and ivory, connected through trade routes that stretched across the continent and beyond. This wasn't a tribal village, it was a city with architecture, social classes, and a functioning economy. The ruins still stand today, silent proof of Africa's engineering genius. Let's bring it all together. What exactly did these civilizations give to the world? Writing and currency. Aksum minted coins and developed its own script. Kush created the Meroitic language. Architecture and engineering. Great Zimbabwe stone walls, Nubian pyramids, Aksum's monumental stele. Trade and economy, gold and salt routes across the Sahara, iron and metallurgy in Kush, sea trade through the Red Sea. Culture and learning, the universities of Timbuktu, the Islamic scholarship of West Africa, and artistic craftsmanship across the continent. Governance, centralized empires with armies, taxation systems, and diplomacy, far from the tribal stereotype. All of this, centuries before European colonial powers even appeared on the map. Despite their brilliance, many African civilizations remain hidden or forgotten, for several reasons. The loss of artifacts through war, colonization, and theft. A lack of written preservation, or a lack of attention to those records. Education systems that still center Europe and Asia, leaving Africa as an afterthought. Destruction of heritage. In some countries, museums and archives have been looted or destroyed, such as during recent conflicts in Sudan. When we lose history, we lose perspective, and we lose part of our collective identity. So why should any of this matter to us now? Here's why. It expands our view of world history, giving us a truly global perspective instead of a Eurocentric one. It builds cultural pride, allowing people of African descent to reconnect with a heritage of power and creativity. It helps dismantle racial stereotypes, showing that Africa's story is one of innovation, not tragedy. It inspires. Examples of leadership, trade, science, and art can motivate today's generation. It reminds us that globalization isn't new. Africa has always been part of the world's interconnected story. The more we know, the richer and more complete our shared human history becomes. If this story inspired you, here's how you can take it further. Read about ancient Africa, explore the histories of Kush, Aksum, Mali, and others. Visit museums and exhibitions that showcase African heritage. Support restoration and preservation projects protecting African culture. Share this knowledge, tell others that Africa's history is broader and deeper than most realize. Ask questions. Why do we hear so much about some civilizations, and so little about others? What can we do to change that? When we say, "they never told us," it's not just a phrase, it's the truth. Ancient Africa was far more than a story of slavery or colonization. It was a world of great empires, vast trade networks, advanced science, and rich culture. So next time you see a map of the ancient world and notice Africa missing, remember, it was there, they just didn't show it to you. Now you know. Let this story be a beginning, not an end. Africa's history is not static, it's alive, and its power lies in its ability to inspire, teach, and connect us all. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, leave a like, and stay curious, because the truth is still being uncovered.